The Protector, a short story by Patricia Clarkson, read by Tess Fashipe. It wasn't until I stood outside the station that I felt fear for what I was about to do. Maybe it was the boarded windows and the doors, or the bold sign that read, "Danger, keep out," or the old iron gates that swung from side to side in the fierce wind, or the branches of the nearby oak tree that creaked and swayed against the wind, or the wet grass and dried leaves that sloshed and crunched beneath my every step, or even the pounding rain that left clear patches on the walls of the dilapidated building. Probably all of the above, and the fact that I was there on my own scared me. Inside the abandoned train station was as scary as outside. A whiff of dusty, mouldy stench filled the air. The Moat train station in Moat Town, County Westmeath, hadn't been used since 1987. For a moment, I scanned the deserted space that once serviced thousands of passengers on the Midland Great Western Railway. The dusty space was littered with debris, and the rotten, mouldy stench filled my nostrils. I could not imagine why I agreed to go there in the first place, other than I'd promised Dan I'd meet him. I ploughed on further inside the station, pointing my torchlight at every shadow I walked past and every crunch beneath my feet. "Dan! Dan!" I shouted out, but there was no answer. Seconds later, I heard my voice repeat 12 times until it faded away in the distance. I looked at my watch. We had agreed to meet at 10 o'clock when he called the night before. It was 10:30. Where could he be? I thought. Dan was never late for anything. I was on my own in a building. No one would think to look for me. Besides, no one knew I was there. I quickened my steps towards the outdoor platform in hope I'd find Dan, and we'd get on with the reason why I was summoned there. He's probably hiding and would jump out from a corner and scare the life out of me, I thought as I walked along the platform. "Dan!" I called again. Still no answer. I looked along the length of the track's remnants. There was no sign of human life, east or west of the open track, which was covered with overgrown grass. At this point, I was scared. I turned to walk back inside the station. A gust of wind rushed through a gap in the walls, whistling past my ears. It gave me goosebumps, and a chill ran down my spine. I walked faster, occasionally glancing behind as I did. I would like to say it was relief to be back inside the building, but it wasn't. I jumped at a scraping sound in the corner to my left and quickly pointed my torchlight. It was a rat scampering off in the opposite direction, probably scared of me too. It appeared rats were the new residents of the station. My torchlight revealed a host of them. I cringed at the sight of them. What was I expecting to find in an old rundown station anyway? It was the perfect place for rats to thrive, but that didn't stop my heart from pounding against my chest from fright. One thing for sure, if Dan didn't turn up soon, I would be out of there like a shot. I was choking on the dreadful smell and dust. Anyone in their right minds wouldn't have entered the station. That's the problem. My friend Dan and I did not fall under that category. I was up for scary stuff, but Dan was a daredevil. At just 20 years of age, he'd tried motorcycle jumps, skydiving, deep sea diving, and even climbed a skyscraper once. I was a month older than Dan, but not half as brave as he was, I sadly admit. Getting into old buildings was his new craze. I couldn't get it, but he was serious about it when he told me. As usual, I had no idea why he had asked me to meet him there. It was clear the station was a significant part to another of his outrageous ideas. There was no sign of Dan. I decided to wait outside instead. As I walked past the ticket machines, I heard a noise behind me. It was quickened footsteps. It couldn't have been Dan. He should be coming in from the front of the station. My heart raced faster as I turned around sharpish and pointed my torch at the source of the noise. To my horror, a tall, muscular figure was walking towards me. In a panic, I took a step or two backwards and tripped over. My torchlight flew out of my hands and crashed to the floor. I scampered further backwards, pulling my weight with my hands on the disgusting floor. Then I stopped against the wall. I squeezed my body up against the wall, awaiting my fate. I shivered with fear of what the stranger was going to do to me. Then, through trembling lips, I plucked up the courage to speak. "Who are you?" I asked. But the hooded figure said nothing. The figure kept walking towards me. It was dark. I couldn't make out who or what it was. I could see my torchlight on the floor in the distance. The silver rim sparkled. I hurried over, grabbed my torchlight and pointed it at the figure. It stopped moving. It faced me with its head lowered but said nothing. "Who are you?" I asked defiantly. My torch pointed at its head. I was determined to know what it was and what it wanted. I stared at it long enough, hoping it would move or say something. The light shook in my hand. I was scared stiff. There was nowhere to run to. I was backed against the wall and had to think fast. Then it occurred to me. It was Dan. Who else would it be? No one knew we were going to meet there. "Ha ha, very funny, Dan," I said with a smile. I stood up and started to walk towards the hooded figure. "You can take that hood off now. The game's up." With that, I flipped back the hood and froze as I came face to face with what I can only describe as weird. Unfortunately, it wasn't Dan. This was it, I thought. I was done for. But before I could say any more, I heard a loud crumbling noise. One side of the station's building was about to collapse. "Out of the way!" the stranger shouted in a deep, husky voice. He raised his hands over his head, then flung it outwards, releasing heavy winds that sent me flying in the opposite direction. I was in pain from my fall, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened in that second. "Cahal!" I heard my name in the distance, and a flicker of light shone through the broken window. It was Dan. I began to smile. I wasn't done for after all. "In here, Dan!" I shouted, holding my ribcage as I sat up. The weird stranger jumped with fright. His scary red eyes, floating in his skull head, glared at me long and hard. He crouched and then with bony fingers pulled his hood back over his head and turned to walk away. "Who are you?" I asked. "Why did you save me?" The stranger stopped and turned around. "You're safe now, my friend," he said. "I'm no longer needed here. I must return home." I was spellbound and felt guilty all of a sudden for thinking ill of the stranger. All the while I thought he was going to harm me, when in fact he was there to protect me. But why, and who sent him? "You can call me Aid," he continued. "I am the protector." Then a train pulled up through the brick wall and Aid got on it and waved goodbye. The train sped off in high speed right through me. With that, both Aid and his train vanished. "Be careful, Cahal. Be careful." His voice slowly faded in the distance. But what did he mean by be careful? I wondered. Why should I be careful?